Hey, my name's Jared Moon, and I'm part of a group of underground athletes you've probably never even heard of before. Most of us don't even have gym memberships. We don't have every piece of equipment known to man, nor do we have a ton of time to train. And we don't need it because we're achieving amazing things without it. We are Garage Gym Athletes, and these are our stories. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jared Moon here with Joe Courtney. What's up, Joe?
Great, man. I feel like it's been a long time.
It's been a while. This is the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. It gets recorded when it gets recorded, and we do what we do. And just so everyone is aware. So I've been traveling a lot, and that's why Joe said that. We batched some episodes, got ahead, and now we're back on our weekly getting after it routine, which I like a lot better because it's far less confusing trying to keep ahead as opposed to just recording weekly. So We're back. So give me an update, man. How's your training going? How's life? Everything and anything in between?
Up and down, but pretty good. This cycle for Hard to Kill is what I'm on, and Hard to Kill for life. I've been really liking that we've been doing energy system days. So like instead of training more than one energy system or types of workouts in the same day, it's all been the same for one thing for the entire day. And I love it. Some people might not. I don't know if they mix it up more.
I have not heard any negative feedback about it, but I'd like to know why you like it.
I just like to get in that right mindset. And if I know I'm going, and even for warm-ups, so like if I'm doing strength stuff, I know my warm-up might be different than certain conditioning, certain cardio aspects, or just mentally preparing for, okay, this is going to be a pain day. This is all I'm going to do this day, and this is what I'm going to feel. Or this is going to be a strength day, and I'm just going to lift some heavy things, versus going from the heavy cluster sets and then going, all right, now I need to do some 20 minutes conditioning,
right?
Completely rewire what's going on.
Yeah, it's the beauty of the one thing, right? You only have to focus on one aspect of your training per day. And that's when I briefed it in the webinar, that's actually what I called it, was OTF, one thing focus, like you're just focusing on one thing per day. And to be honest, I haven't heard any positive or negative feedback about it. So hopefully everyone's liking it. Maybe we should get in the group and ask how everyone's liking the one thing focus. But I'm glad you're liking it, man.
Yeah, and it's also, so a lot of times I use Saturday as my balancing day, so I don't always do a Meet Yourself Saturday, but I'll do it.
The balance day, I like that.
Yeah. So like the fifth day will be whatever that might be made up for the later than the week. So I think the first week there was a good bit more lifting. So Saturday I went on a like interval runs or a trail run. And then this past week, it was the opposite. We actually had more conditioning. So I did Sexy Saturday, what I'm calling. So kind of a pseudo shred day.
/ Sexy Saturday. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I've been doing. And I have...
Far from Meet Yourself Saturday. It's Sexy Saturday.
Sexy Saturday, yeah. I don't meet myself. I just look at myself.
There you go. And lay in the fetal position.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, yeah. See, when you're sexy, you don't need to lay in the fetal position.
Doesn't happen.
And then I've been playing in a men's adult lacrosse league on Sundays, so I get a little bit more running in there, which I found out looking at the rosters, I am the oldest or the second oldest person in the entire league, which kind of makes me feel good.
Yeah, why does that make you feel good?
Because I can still run around with people with dudes in their mid-20s, like just at a college and stuff. There's even like people in college. And I'm still running around a lot. It makes me feel good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sometimes.
How's your body holding up?
It's not good. So, and ironically, this week I got wrecked pretty bad. I think I have a bruised rib and a pulled hamstring. So I spoke too soon, but I don't care. I'm still doing it.
Yeah, man, that's brutal. I mean, ribs are always difficult. I've only ever had a rib issue one time, and it was a very long time ago, to be honest, before I was even really training that seriously. And I just remember like everything hurt. I don't know how bad your rib is right now, but I know it's like getting out of bed hurt, taking a deep breath hurt. Like everything was just painful. Where are you at on the pain scale?
I'm not too bad, but when I go to try and do any kind of movements, I can feel it. Like I just went to do, I was like, okay, maybe I'll do some sit ups. I did one. I was like, nope, that's not happening. I tried to do some light rowing, and like I can't pull as hard, so because like everything just kind of yeah, so it's not that great. So I'm kind of doing like half days, just whatever I can without pain, which isn't much,
Nice. Well,
but it's okay. I'll still play on Sunday.
I'm I'm injured as well. You know, some updates for me. I think let's just break it down how it happened. So what was it, like a year and a half ago, I broke my foot. Like I didn't like highlight that big on like social media or even talk about it that much just because it's like it's whatever, you know, I did something stupid, broke my foot trail running in Asheville. And so I got really good friends with my rower during that time period. Concept 2, like anytime there's running, I was just rowing. And see, I wasn't doing Murph at the time, so it wasn't that big of an issue. And then a few weeks ago, I decided to do barefoot Murph, which I had no problems with when I did it. But it has to be the catalyst for what happened over the course of 2 weeks. I've been sitting here trying to think about what happened. Like how all of a sudden did I like injure my foot? And so I did barefoot Murph, and I ran about half of that Murph, half of those miles on concrete barefoot. So that's a bad idea. But I knew it was a bad idea, but that's how long it takes me to get to like grass that I can stay on for any long period of time. And so I think that set things off. And then we went to on a beach trip, and I did some barefoot running, a lot of barefoot running with a buddy of mine. And I think that just like that ended it. And my foot
On
was
the beach or ground?
say what?
On the beach, like on sand or like on paper?
Yeah, on the sand.
Okay.
But it was pretty packed sand, like pretty packed. Not like it wasn't soft sand running at all. Like when I decided to run barefoot, that's what I was thinking more. I was more used to like Florida beaches with like really white sand and super soft. That's not what we were running on. And so just like a step up from concrete. Anyway, my foot was super jacked up for about 3 or 4 days after that, and still hurting to this day. But I think with how quickly it's healing, like each day is a little bit better. I'm probably still 2 full weeks away from recovery. I do think that it is like 100% muscular and not a foot fracture, which is what I was worried about. I thought I had done that again because that's just such a long time period. But each day I'm getting, 15% better or whatever, 10% better. And since it's moving that quickly, it has to be muscular in nature, which I think I'll be back up and running soon. But this past Murph, it wasn't barefoot or anything, but it was like the worst Murph of my life because of how bad my foot was hurting. Like I was honestly like, I can't not do it. But, my options, if this gets any worse, is I'm going to have to row on future Murphs, which then it wouldn't even be a Murph workout, technically, right? It'd be like a scaled with rowing. And then I was like, or my other option is to keep it Murph. I would have to walk / jog to where my foot wasn't in like severe pain. And then my times would skyrocket to like an hour or something like that. So anyway, I don't know what's going to happen this Saturday. My foot will probably still be pretty tender by then, but I'll keep everybody updated.
Not good.
Not good.
You need to like tape arch supports when you run barefoot again.
Well, it's on the outside of my foot, so I think it's just like I'm
Okay.
hitting like a weird spot. But we so like I said, I've been traveling a lot, and we're going to talk about that today. That's one of our topics, and so we can get into a lot of tips and tricks. But that's basically updates for me. Other than that, I mentioned this to Joe. He's not going to join me, but Harvard started it sounds ridiculous. Harvard started some online courses that you can get certificates from. So you can get certified, and you can do this in business. You can do this in health, like all these different areas. And I was like, okay, well, I'm pretty interested in that. So I was researching through the Harvard Medical School one, and they had 2 that I was very interested in, biochemistry and physiology. And I was like, sweet. Like I don't want to take immunology or anything like that. So I was like, well, let's look into this. And it had like an application process. So I submitted my application for biochemistry and physiology at Harvard Medical School, like their online version of all this stuff. And I was like, well, whatever. Wrote my essay, prereqs, all that stuff, and I actually got accepted. I don't know if that's a big deal or not. It's not like actually getting into Harvard, but they accepted me. So I'll be taking those 2 classes starting in September. So going back to school of sorts to get certified in biochemistry and physiology from Harvard Medical School. So it sounds really awesome. It's not as awesome as it sounds. I think you probably could have skipped most of the application and maybe still been accepted. But the primary reason I'm doing it is not just because it sounds cool. Is just I keep finding myself at the end of my rope when we're doing stuff on nutrition and health, fitness, anything. There's not a certification out there anymore that's going to really answer a lot of the questions I'm seeking answers to. So I we talked about this, just you and I, going all the way back to like keto and everything. I was getting my keto answers from a biochemistry textbook, because no one had I was asking these really complex questions to keto experts, even on my podcast, the Better Humanology podcast at the time. And they're like, yeah, I'm not really sure. And I'm like, okay, I'll go figure it out. And so, the more I've realized, the more well-equipped you can be in those subjects, the more answers you're going to have. That's the main reason I want to do it, is just to make the answers I give athletes and anyone else, the best they can possibly be. And Joe's going to skip. He's going to skip. He doesn't want to.
Well, see, because your intensity level sometimes is, I felt like when I saw the question, if we wanted to join, hey, you want to go to Harvard Medical School with me? I was like, oh, that's funny. No, you're good. I'm good. Because you mentioned your organic chemistry book. You got that when I was at your house last, and you was like, yeah, you got this 7,000 page book for some light reading on organic chemistry. I'm just like, no, okay, that's cool. So that's not me. When you asked about Harvard Medical School, I was like, oh, this is kind of a joke. He's going to do it, but I'm good. And you're like, no, I'm serious.
Yeah, I got it. So I'm starting. I didn't know, like I applied several weeks ago. I didn't know how long the application took or if it would actually go through. And it went through. I just got notified a couple days ago. So that's awesome. But you know how so I read a lot of business and self-development stuff, and then your free time fun reading is it's like, what would you call that? Like, what is that genre for you?
It's just a lot of fiction stuff.
Fiction.
So it's pretty broad.
Okay. I didn't know if there was like a specific,
I read a lot of fantasy, but also some mystery and stuff. So,
okay. So that's when I like to read like organic chemistry textbooks, just going to bed, trying to get into some light reading, put you right to sleep. It's perfect. Learn about the Krebs cycle.
Some read Harry Potter. Some are diving into organic chem.
Yeah. So if anyone's interested out there, shoot me a message or something, and I can shoot you more of the details on it. But it's pretty cool. I think it's a great opportunity. Some of the courses are a lot longer. Like some of their business ones take like 9 months to complete, and some of them are 10 weeks. So it really depends on what you're interested in, but pretty cool. All right. That's it on that. Let's get into our sponsor. So we've been sponsored by Blueberries for a long time. We're going to switch that up now to being sponsored by Your Body. Your Body is the sponsor of the podcast, because what I want to start doing, if I remember to do it, is give a fact of the week on your body every single week. And so we have the EO3 elements. We talked about it on the podcast, and that's kind of where I'll start with some of these facts. So one of the things we have for EO3 elements is blood flow and how important blood flow is. But that's the one I get asked questions about the most. Like, why? Like all these other ones, I have the list here, makes sense. Like, okay, get sleep, be hydrated, eat well, like get some sun. Like those all make sense to people. Warm up, cool down. That all makes sense. But people are like, blood flow, what's the deal with blood flow? Well, blood flow, the main reason our blood flows is it's responsible for distributing oxygen and nutrients to the cells throughout our body and removing waste. So it's also there to remove waste and give us the good stuff. So give us the good stuff, take away the bad stuff. That is why blood pumps through our body. But I want to give a little bit more about that. So there's about 1.2 to 1.5 gallons of blood circulating through our body at any given time, depending on your size, male, female, all that other stuff. And every minute at rest, your body pumps about 5 liters per minute. So 5 liters per minute when you're resting. And when you're training, your body is pumping about 30 liters per minute, every single minute while you're training. And so I wanted to break that down even further for everybody, just to kind of put it in some context. So 24 hours a day, if you're just kind of chilling, not doing a lot, you're going to pump about 7,200 liters of blood throughout your body, or 1,902 gallons. So 1,900 gallons pumping through your body over a 24-hour time period. But if you are just chilling for 23 hours a day, and then you train for 1 hour, like most of us do, you're going to increase your blood flow for the entire day by 21%. So you'll go from 1,900 gallons to 2,300 gallons of blood pumped in a day. So that's the big difference. 21% increase by 1 hour of activity. And that is more nutrients to the body, more oxygen, and more waste being removed. And that's the big reason behind blood flow. The more blood flow we can get running throughout your body, the better. So I converted a lot of that to gallons for my Americans, and then left some of the liters information in there for anyone else interested. But that is blood flow fact. Were you at all intrigued by that?
Of course.
Of course. I love talking about blood flow. Super important. So get your blood flow. We recommend at a minimum 10 minutes per day. If you're exercising, you're already getting a lot of that. But from other studies we've talked about on this podcast, just getting some additional blood flow outside of training is good too for recovery.
Well, yeah, I was going to say that's the whole thing about like active recovery days. And when we talked about it before, doing the low intensity recovery days, and even when you're like injured, you have soft tissue injuries, tendon injuries, getting blood flow is going to help you recover and heal faster.
Yeah, and that's a big thing, you know, when you're off the program, and we're going to kind of be talking about that today when we talk about traveling. When you're off the program, you can't follow programming for some reason. The only thing you should care about after, like if you can't follow the program anymore, is blood flow. Like try to get that blood flow today for health reasons. Yeah, you might not be making progress on certain forms of conditioning or strength numbers or whatever, but you're still getting, in a major way, the blood flow needed to keep your body in peak condition. So very important. All right, man. You ready for the study?
Let's do it.
All right, the study we are covering is comparison of muscle activation and kinematics during free weight back squats with different loads by Van Den Tiller, 2019. How do these people name them? Like, I should help people with naming their things to something a little bit more interesting, because then we have to break it down and make it sound sexy for everybody. But if they were just do that in the first place, there's nothing in the science literature that says make sure this sounds boring and stupid, but they do it anyway. All right, so what I'll break it down for everybody. Big overview, what are we covering? We're talking about muscle activation when you are lifting at higher intensities. And so when I say intensity, I mean a percentage of your 1 rep max. A higher intensity would be 90% of your 1 rep max. That is a high intensity lift. So we're talking about muscle activation during that. And then we're also talking about muscle activation not at a higher intensity, but a faster speed, so higher velocity. So can you activate as much muscle by simply moving quicker as opposed to just always having to lift heavier? That is kind of what they set out to find in this study. And I think it's very, very interesting. Let me give you the breakdown. We're actually not going to spend a ton of time on this one because it's a very simple study. But I'll go through some of it. Let's first start with who they tested and kind of what they did. So they had 13 trained male lifters who could all squat at least 1.5 times their body weight, but none of them were competitive powerlifters or weightlifters. So they'd perform sets of 2 reps with 30%, 40%, 50%, 60% of 1 rep max, and then they'd also do single reps of 70, 80, 90, and 100% of their 1 rep max in randomized order with 3 to 5 minutes rest. The lifters were instructed to accelerate each rep as explosively as possible, which meant their feet actually left the floor with some of the lower weights. So if you think about that, that's a big difference. And the only difference in so if I give you 30% on the bar, 30% of your 1 rep max, that's very, very light. It's like a joke light. And if I was like, okay, lift that, and I'm standing there, I'm your coach, you would squat, you'd come back up, and I'd be like, okay, do it again now, but as fast as you possibly can. All I've done, nothing's changed. Bar's the same, weight's the same, but now I've given you a simple set of instructions that's completely changed how you're attacking that workout. So much so that it says in the study, these people are elevating off the ground because at 30%, you can still jump with that kind of load. And so I think the reason I think this is so interesting is the only difference is a simple form of instruction and turning this into more dynamic effort movements. And so what do they find? I'm not going to get in, this study goes deep. If you guys want to read it, go Google what I just said at the beginning, the full title, or you can check out the show notes and just click on the study. But they go like deep into not only like the muscle activation, but the different muscles that are activated at different times throughout each repetition. And it just gets really in the weeds to where I'd be reading a bunch of muscle names and times and percentages, and it would be really boring, and I don't think that you guys need to know any of that. So the big takeaway here, let me scroll down. So big takeaway, obviously there's going to be more muscle activation when you are lifting heavier weights. Right? So if you get up to 80, 90%, you are activating way more muscle, but it wasn't that dramatically different when people were forced to take acceleration or speed of the bar into account. There was a difference, but it was a very slight difference. And so that's kind of the main main takeaway is people could lift less weight at a higher velocity and activate nearly as much muscle as they could lifting a heavier load. And we could talk a little bit about what this could mean or what this means for anyone lifting out there, but I just want to get some of your thoughts on it. Any takeaways that you had?
Oh, do we want to get to the slow reps?
Yeah, anything you want, man.
So yeah, the first thing I thought when I was reading the study was that if you like, they said that when there wasn't that much of a difference in the percentage when you're lifting explosively, but that means when other studies did it, they were just lifting at whatever pace they wanted. So if people were lifting at slower rates, then their muscle activation was a little bit more. So my thought was, if you're new to lifting and you're not quite ready to go powerful or explosive, then to slow down your reps, to really concentrate on activating as much as possible so that when you do go explosive and powerful, you know how to properly activate everything as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, there's almost needs to be like a hierarchy in place, because if you just started lifting or you're relatively new, say less than a year of barbell practice, and so what the study is saying is that you can lift fast and it's going to be very, very beneficial. But I wouldn't get a brand new lifter and be like, okay, studies say lifting quickly is almost as good as lifting heavy, so we're just going to lift quick. And I want you to go as fast as you can, because if your form's really not perfect, you shouldn't be applying speed to anything. That's true in like everything. That's true in like golf. That's true in tennis. Anything where it takes some practice, you need to learn how to do it perfectly slow first. Then you can add speed and intensity to that. Because anyone listening out there who has ever swung a golf club, if you are just like, okay, I know how to hit it, I don't have a lot of practice, but you know what? I'm just going to hit it harder, as fast as I can, smack it. I bet that like 9 times out of 10 is not going to work out for you. The ball is going to go a direction you weren't planning on, because you don't really have the muscle memory down to execute that at a high velocity. So no difference with squats, press, deadlift, anything like that. You need to have that muscle pattern down, that mind-muscle connection down before you start applying speed to it. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, and for application-wise, also I just thought about this so Liz has been working on her pull-ups for a long time, and when you go to certain kinds of gyms, when they have pull-ups, you're like, okay, we're going to do banded or jumping because you still want to get all those reps in or whatnot, and those are going to be a little bit faster. But if you're not doing it right, then you're not going to get anywhere. So I've been having her sit on the ground and do banded pull-downs slowly, to make sure everything is, shoulders are pulling back, elbows are going down the right angle, everything is activating correctly, so that she can, when she goes up to the bar, actually starts to pull herself.
And I think that's great because if you, like I said, if you master it slowly first, then you can add speed. Now, moving into adding speed for people who do have that experience, what kind of application or takeaway could this be? And it's kind of two from me. So the first one is, I've been preaching dynamic effort lifting, speed lifting for years. Like I wrote about it being the missing element in your strength program like 8 years ago. Yeah, like just because no one had any speed lifts in their program. I didn't understand why. And so I think that's a big part of it. If you're part of our programming, you already see it on dynamic effort days. And if you watch the little video I've recorded about dynamic effort, I already talked about most of the things that are hitting this, like the weight doesn't matter so much. Like what this has spawned other research that isn't concrete yet. More we'll cover it when more studies are published, but there's a lot of, we mentioned on the last podcast too, like self-regulation or auto-regulation gaining more popularity in strength training. And that's not a place where it's been popular in strength training. And so there's been things like auto-regulation on rest. So just resting to when you feel like you're ready to hit another set. But now they're talking about the same with lifting, like measuring like a bar speed, and when you feel, and basing it off of how fast the bar is, as opposed to just always a percentage of your 1 rep max. It's like, okay, if I can squat 315 pounds at this many meters per second, I'm going to do it until I no longer can. And then your body kind of regulates how many sets you should do, as opposed to doing 10 sets. If your body can't move that weight quickly anymore after 3 sets, then maybe you're just done, because there's no real benefit. And the reason that stuff's harder to do is because you're probably listening to me and you're like, how the hell do you measure bar speed? Well, that's been a lot more complicated in years past, but now with like apps and everything else, it's actually not that difficult to measure that stuff. So you can, but like I said, that's all kind of cutting edge stuff, auto regulation. The second reason I think it applies is for anyone who might be injured or just sick of lifting heavy. I think both of those things can happen. Like you can end up injured, maybe your knee's a little bit tweaked, or maybe you're just like, damn, like I've been hitting at least 80% for a year, at least once or twice a week. Like I need a break. I don't want to lift so heavy all the time. You're just kind of burnt out. That can happen. Well, just lower the weight and move fast. Just focus on moving really fast for a while. And do a lot of that dynamic effort training, and you're going to activate a lot of the same muscles. I'm not saying that you're going to end up with the same 1 rep max, because the way I believe it should be done and the way it's been taught is that there should be some maximal effort load training in there somewhere, coupled with dynamic effort training. Now, if you were to go back and fall on only dynamic effort training, they're saying that it activates almost as much muscle, but I've never done that program solely. And that's kind of my big question mark. And what I would like to explore more is like, hey, if I only program dynamic efforts, is it going to increase someone's 1 rep max? Is that possible? And if that is possible, that would be amazing, because going back to what we originally said, if you have good form down and everything, like you're good, and we only do fast lifting as opposed to heavy lifting, the chance of you getting injured fall down significantly. If you're only ever lifting with 30, 40, max 50% of your 1 rep max, like the chance of you getting injured are very, very minimal. Like it's be very hard to hurt yourself unless like we talked about, you don't actually have that movement pattern down to be able to move quickly. So I think this is really fascinating stuff, and those are the two areas I believe that you could really take away and start to utilize it. And the only other part, 2 other points I had was where I learned this stuff. 2 people, Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell and Vladimir Zadorowski, who wrote The Science and Practice of... Are you laughing at his name?
Yeah, I was laughing to see how you're going to pronounce it.
Oh, no, dude, I've been practicing that name for years because I've read that book like 5 times. So Science and Practice of Strength Training, those are so that book, along with Louis Simmons, were the first 2, like I dove into a bunch of Louis Simmons books. I dove into the Science and Practice of Strength Training, and in that book, there's not like huge chapters on it, but it just slivers throughout the book, like a paragraph here, a paragraph there, talking about speed and velocity and like all these things. And I was like, wait, I've seen all these other strength programs and none of them talk about this. So why not? And that's when I started diving into it, like getting closer and closer to a decade ago. You know, if we go before Into 3 Fitness actually started and I was reading this stuff, probably an actual decade, that's when I started to get on this stuff. And so I think it's funny that in 2019, we're just now getting to a study where people are like, oh yeah, you might want to start focusing on speed. Not because of anything I've said, but these people are already heavy hitters in the industry. Louis Simmons, like, if you're into strength training at all and you don't know who Louis Simmons is, well, that's messed up. You definitely should know who he is. So I just think that it's funny that sometimes we rely too much on science and we don't listen to our world-renowned coaches out there who've been saying this shit for years. And I think sometimes you need to look at coaches' experience more than a scientific study. I think that if you're a coach who's run hundreds or thousands of athletes through your own programming and you're like, okay, I know what the science says, but I'm going to have to go against the grain here and do this, which is kind of what Louis Simmons did dating all the way back to 1970s. He's like, no, we're going to lift less weight faster 1 day per week. And they're like, nah, dude, that's not what the Russians do. That's no good. It's not going to be good. And he's like, well, we'll just see how it works, you know, and now he has like strongest men in the world train at his gym and have for a long time. So listening to these coaches, I think is really important. I love going over studies like this, but I think experience far outweighs a study of, 13 people that are going, try and change your mind about something. Reference the study, rely on experience. My 2 cents. Perfect. All right. Soapbox off now. We get some traveling and nutrition, man. So I've been traveling for 30 days straight. I've been home like twice for like 48 hours in those 30 days. And it just got me thinking a lot about traveling, fitness, nutrition, how to keep your cool, how to stay on track, all these other things. And I also want to get your take on it. And I'm going to start with you. So we're going to go over nutrition tips first and then fitness tips while traveling. So nutrition, how about you take it away? What are your best tips, tricks, and strategies for nutrition?
Usually when we travel, we just try and find the cleanest stuff that we can. I think when we go on road trips or anything like that, anything that's like Chipotle or Mexican is easy because it's meat and vegetables. And then barbecue as well. And I mean, it's a lot of times barbecue sauce has sugar, but you can easily get meat and vegetables at a barbecue place. Just avoid the cornbread, the mac and cheese, whatever other.
Ooh, I don't know how you say cornbread.
southern dishes that you might want. Those are just the easiest things for when we travel. When I've gone like TDYs before and been held up in a hotel room, most grocery stores nowadays will have rotisserie chickens. Just go get a rotisserie chicken, pick it clean. You can make like quinoa or something in your microwave and some steamed vegetables, and there you go. Like, it's just a simple, easy, quick meal that's fairly healthy, and you don't have to like suffer to go through, okay, well, all they have around here is fast food places. You can do that. So that's some of the things that I've done. Trying to think. What about you?
Yeah, so I kind of developed this on my trip because I was trying to put more into what I do naturally and tried to put it more into a framework for people to understand. This is kind of my natural reaction when I'm traveling. So I kind of have like a hierarchy. I want to get macros because if I'm not like, I eat vegetables, salad, all that stuff, and I take athletic greens, like I get a good amount of micronutrients, but that's because I meal prep. Emily cooks and she cooks a lot of vegetables in her cooking and things like that. So it's very easy. When I'm traveling, it's also very easy for me to not eat a vegetable at all if I'm not like on purpose about it, very intentional, like getting the salad at the restaurant or whatever. And so I try to get micronutrients as my main thing. Like I try to focus on like, okay, what and how are you going to get some form of micronutrients today? And I do travel with Athletic Greens, their little travel packs. Again, no affiliation with the company, just been taking it consistently for like 5 years or something stupid. So that's the first thing, is get micronutrients. Then after that, I just focus on the quality of the food. So, and when I say quality, I mean, I might be running at a caloric deficit. I might not be eating enough. That stuff can be problematic over longer term, but I really just want to focus on the quality. So if I only had like 2 or 3 opportunities to eat today and they were small salads or like something with not a lot of calories, but they were healthier, higher quality meats, vegetables, things like that, that's going to be my first choice. But then I go down from there. It's like, okay, if that's not possible, then I am going to focus on macros, but could be shitty quality food. And I'm talking about like, okay, I haven't eaten today. It's going on like 18 hours of not having eaten. I'm at a gas station. What can I do here? Like, what can I do in this exact situation? I'm like, okay, beef jerky, probably, by some like random company, probably not very high quality meat, not the best, but guess what? Ton of protein. So I'm locking in that macronutrient. Okay, is there any sort of clean carbohydrate I can get here? What's the closest thing I can get? And it was funny, at a gas station, I actually found, dried mango. So I was basically eating dried food. I had a couple packs of jerky and a couple packs of dried mango. And so it's not the best or most nutritious thing in the world, but I had carbs and protein locked in. And then I got some nuts for fat. And so it was just like, it was some salted almonds. And I'm like, okay, this is a gas station meal. Like I did this at a gas station. You should be able to do something similar. Now, if that's all you ate every day, you might end up with like digestive problems and like some other stuff going on. But that's kind of my hierarchy is like, okay, if I can eat at a restaurant like Chipotle, whatever, easy. If I'm getting stuck, okay, let's just focus on macros, however I can get these things in. And then after that, someone asked, so I posted this on Instagram, like, what questions do you have? And one guy asked the question that I kind of always ask myself and have been for years is, what if you're in an actual situation where you can't really eat healthy, but your options are either don't eat or eat healthy, or don't eat or eat something unhealthy? What would you pick? We're talking about really unhealthy or don't eat. What are you going to do?
For a while, depending on how long I can eat my next meal, I probably won't eat.
What if it's like 4 days?
Well, then I have to eat. After a while, you're gonna have to have something.
Yeah, and that's where I can end up in some of these. Most of the time, like I'm all about fasting, but I actually did that on this trip towards the beginning. I was like, I'm like a pro faster now. So like, screw, if I can't eat something good, I'm just not going to eat. But then that happened about 4 days in a row. And it was more of how busy I was. Like I just didn't make it a priority to go buy food somewhere at a grocery store or anything like that. And so I was like, I think I've consumed like 2,000 calories in 4 days. This is not going well, And so I didn't necessarily eat anything crazy unhealthy, but I'm in that situation where I'm like, well, screw it. Like I just need to eat. And that's my last situation is like, if I've already gone past okay, it's been a long time since I've eaten. I already skipped a meal because I thought I'd get something later, and then it ends up being later. And this is more like when you're actually on the road, you don't have a home base, Then I'll be like, you know what, screw it. I don't care what it is. I'm going to consume calories now because I need calories to survive. So that's kind of my hierarchy, with that one being the very last and honestly pretty rare. But that's kind of how I run through my nutrition brain when I'm traveling.
Yeah, usually in transit is when when I know I'm going to be, I'm okay with fasting. I might prepare ahead of time for that. And then once I get there, I kind of make it up. But then if it's a couple of days of trying to fast and stay lower, as long as I keep it somewhat of a caloric deficit, I don't mind eating some things that are less ideal. But most places you can still don't just dive off the deep end. Don't
it's never an excuse, right? Like,
I have to have McDonald's, so I guess I'll get this Big Mac and all of these things. Like, all right, well, you can still have a chicken sandwich and just eat the chicken.
Right. Like that's the thing about like Chick-fil-A. You can go to Chick-fil-A and you can get fruit and grilled chicken. Like, yeah, going back to that. Okay, now we're focusing on macros, maybe not quality as much. But you can do that at Chick-fil-A, right? Nobody wants to do that at Chick-fil-A, but you can do it. And that's true of almost any fast food restaurant. If say you're in a group on a road trip and no one else is healthy and they're like, okay, we're stopping at McDonald's, and you're like, damn it, McDonald's. Okay, that's fine. And you get there and you're like, yep, I got to get the Does McDonald's do Big Mac or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm getting the Big Mac with a supersized fry and a large Coke. It's like, whoa, dude, that is not what I meant. You can focus on getting something like, chicken sandwich or no bread or something. Like there's always a healthy-ish option there. And don't they all have salads now? Like I think McDonald's has a salad.
Yeah. What's crappy about that is that sometimes the salads are worse for you than the actual food because of the dressing. So you just have to figure out your own dressing. Just ask for a mustard and honey, and there you go. It's honey mustard, not the actual honey mustard dressing.
Dang, look at Joe. He's just like a chemist on the road, mixing honey and mustard for honey mustard. I would never thought of that.
That's where my organic chem comes from. We had to do that while traveling. It's like, okay, we want to have a salad, but all of these things all of these options are crappy. Okay, well, let's just get some mustard and let's get some honey, and boom, it's honey mustard.
I would have never thought of that. I don't know why. Ever.
It's in the title.
Yeah, it's very very apparent. All right, so I think, do you have any more nutrition tips? I do think I do load my backpack with as many healthy options as I can. But when you're traveling for 30 days, your backpack gets pretty low over time. But yeah, I try to put in some like healthier jerky and protein bars and all that junk, or actually good stuff. That way my snacks are kind of something I already had from home, and then I try and focus on the meals whenever I can.
Every single suitcase we have, when I go to pack, there's probably 4 or 5 leftover RX bars inside of them because we take them everywhere.
There you go.
So I go to put more in it. I'm like, oh, hey, there's still RX bars in here. So
problem solved. All right, man. Well, now let's move this one. I think nutrition really, it comes down to like, you know what to do, just do it. Like you're not going to be able to be perfect. You're either not going to be perfect because the quality is going to suck, or you're not going to eat enough calories. Something's going to be off. If you travel constantly and you're trying to follow like a macro plan, that's really hard. I've never honestly done that. Like if I'm going to be traveling aggressively, I'm like, no, let's screw macros. Let's just try and eat as healthy as we can for the next whatever amount of time. But fitness is different. Fitness is a little bit different. I think it can be more challenging sometimes for people. So fitness tips when traveling, man, what do you have?
So I will come clean and say we are completely terrible when it comes to working out while traveling.
So you're just like, you're like, I'm off today.
Somewhat yes or no. I mean, when we go on vacation, I say we vacation hard. We're explorers. We're not just like beach bums that go and don't do anything. So
yeah,
generally when we go anywhere, we are walking a ton, or we might do some hikes. Or so like by the end of the day, we're still exhausted because we've been walking and moving around so much.
You've been getting that blood flow.
Yeah, all the blood flow, and do some cartwheels. But this is also why, and this could apply to nutrition, is that we think of, okay, when we're home, we try and go 90, 100% as much as possible. Like I said before, we do our 4 training days, and then Saturday we're doing a 5th day, and then might even do something on Sunday, so that all of this adds up, so that when we do travel, it's like, okay, it's fine because we train 5-6 days a week as normally. So it's 1 week off of just walking around isn't a huge deal. So I don't feel as stressed to do that. But there have been times where we're in the same place for a while. So when we went on a cruise, we had our sea days, and on those days we had workouts planned, and one of which was like a sexy Saturday. And
Sexy
the other
Saturday.
one we did the EO3 5K. So just cut some kind of balance. But as far as fitting stuff in, if I do any kind of a workout, I'll usually default to something upper body, like push-ups, banded pull-ups. If there's somebody has dumbbells, I'll do something with dumbbells, because if we're walking around a ton, then that's all legs, just walking around, at least blood flow wise. But upper body, I just feel like sometimes I get a bit deflated if I don't do anything for a week.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I think the main thing when you're traveling is to do something. A lot of hotel gyms are pretty well equipped, but I think I challenge most people, if you can stick to the programming, it depends on why you're traveling. If you're traveling if it's a business trip that you're going to be gone for 4 or 5 days, like just say all the weekdays, and you have you really have a pretty standard day, or maybe you should. I don't know everybody's work schedule, but maybe you start at 8 a.m. and you end at 5 p.m. Like you're still pretty routined at that point. Maybe you're squeezing your workout in before you go to the office or your meetings, or after everything's over at the hotel gym. I think that's pretty structured. I do think where it gets more challenging is the vacation situation like that you're talking about, because your schedule is so non-standard on vacation. Like you're doing something different every day. You might wake up at different times every day, go to bed at different times every day. You could possibly drink alcohol, which is going to affect the next day, so on and so forth. So I do think that those are a little bit more challenging. I think that your first priority should just be do something, not completely like avoid or forget or not do it. Like I got really busy, not, just in the vacation mode with family and everything. We woke up and started doing stuff. We went on a tour, and then we went to the beach, and then we went to this restaurant, and then we had this other thing to go to. And I was just like, crap, like what? I don't know what I'm going to do. So I ended up doing like a 12-minute workout, like a 12-minute AMRAP I just made up. And it's not the best workout in the world. It's super short, but I did something that day. And so, I'm still good to go. So doing something now, a more practical, like standpoint, I think bands are awesome. We've talked about them a lot, and not like those little bands. Like you can get them from Rogue Fitness. I know for sure they have different weights, but I don't know how long they are. They're probably like 3 feet long in their circles.
Yeah.
Yes. And so you can just we have an entire webinar on bands, in the Garage Gym Athlete, the garage, the education area there, just different things that you could do. You can press overhead with it. You can deadlift depending on what kind of apparatus you have. You can just do so many different things with a banded push-ups. You can do a lot of stuff with that. That's the easiest thing to travel with for me, is a big band, because I typically only bring one, and I'll just throw it into my training however I can. And speaking of dynamic effort training, you can get a lot of good dynamic effort training in with some bands, trying to really forcefully lift push-ups with a band around your back or something like that. It's really good. And then my second go-to, which is probably I've used way more than bands, is the one-man system. So the one-man system, created that program several years ago. That really is my go-to if I'm going to be traveling for a week or more. I'm just like, I'll just get on that one-man system. And that worked out perfectly this time, because I kind of started on the Hard to Kill track because I had access to more equipment at the beginning of my travel. And then I switched more to the Legacy track because we were just running the one-man system, right? Like that's what we're doing this first 4 weeks. And so that was easy for me and kind of worked out. But that's what I do primarily when I travel, those two things, bands or the one-man system.
Yep.
Cool, man. Anything else? Fitness, nutrition?
No, I just like to emphasize that, the more you do while you're in your regular home life routine, the less you should have to stress about keeping up with as much as possible when you're on vacation or when you're traveling, as long as you're doing something when you're on vacation.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Like, I used to be the type of person who, if I got off the programming, I would get stressed out. But that doesn't happen to me anymore, because I just know that I'll rebound quickly or get back on track when I get back. The main reason that I focus on diet, fitness, nutrition when I'm traveling is where I feel good during the vacation. Like, there's nothing that can ruin a vacation, more than me, than eat a bunch of shitty food, like don't sleep very well, drink alcohol, like, in excess. And then like, I'm just like jacked up for like several days. So I really don't want to screw up time off with my family by, bringing myself to like a substandard version of myself by just being shitty. So that's why, maybe not as clean, but still as healthy as possible. So I still feel pretty good. Not the best workout in the world, but still getting something where I'm not, an asshole to hang around. I got some sort of fitness in, like the small things. Like I typically don't stress out about following the program anymore, because I know that 90, like you said, 99% of the year, 95% of the year, a program is being followed. But when it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's get into the workout for this week. I'm going to go ahead and say this is actually my favorite. I've said that about a lot, but it's official. Condition Me to the Grave is my favorite Meet Yourself Saturday workout. Over Murph, over anything else, Condition Me to the Grave is my favorite workout, because I haven't had to work harder at any workout than this one to do it, to finish it in the time cap. So Condition Me to the Grave is the workout. You want to brief it?
I don't even have it pulled up, but
You don't
I
even
know
have
it.
pulled it up. Let me pull it up for you. There we go. So it's 100. You want to brief it or no? Let me.
No.
No, you don't. Still don't have it pulled up. All right, Condition Me to the Grave. Now, there is a modified version. I'm not going to be going over that right now. I'm just going to state the other one, then we can start what the subs are. So it's a 100-calorie row, then 100 calories on the Airdyne, then 100 double unders. After that, you run 1 mile. Then everything stair steps down. 75-calorie row, 75-calorie Airdyne, 75 double unders, run 1 mile. 50 cal row, 50 cal Airdyne, 50 double unders, run 1 mile, 25 cal row, 25 cal Airdyne, 25 double unders, and you are done. That has conditioned me to the grave, and there is a hard 60-minute time cap on this one. So that is the workout. I
have the scale.
subs. Yeah, so if you don't have a rower or an Airdyne, what do you do, Joe?
It is the sumo deadlifts. So you would replace all of the 175, 50 with sumo deadlifts. You just do that with a kettlebell or...
And that's for the row, right?
Yeah, that's the top one. And then the next one is, I guess, for the...
Airdyne?
Yes, would be 100 box step-ups total. So 50 each leg. Best to alternate. And then double unders, there isn't a sub. It's just double unders.
Yeah, you would just
or
do
singles.
Unders. So if you don't have a rower, you do sumo deadlifts. And not sumo deadlift high pull. Like a lot of people think it's high pull. I disagree with that sub. And so then for the Airdyne, it would be box step-ups. Now, if you're doing the subbed version, most people are going to finish in under an hour from what I've seen just from our athletes. Most people will. Yeah. Once you step up to rowing, Airdyne, and double unders, and then you run a mile, that 60-minute time cap gets real hard. So I created, this may be like the second workout, the second Meet Yourself Saturday I created before it was Meet Yourself Saturday. The true first one was the EO3 5K many, many years ago, because I used to do that as a unit in the military. We would do that one. And then I just randomly thought of this one day. I don't even know why. But I do know that when I thought of it and then went out to my garage to do it, I couldn't do it. I got time capped. I think I got time capped in the 50s at an hour, which is really bad. But I also did it in the middle of the summer. But I was like, I know it's possible. Like I know I can finish this in under an hour. But it took several attempts, spread throughout. Like I didn't just keep trying. Like we program it once every, 10 to 12 weeks or whatever. So I would just do it when it was in the programming, and it took me like 3 or 4 attempts before I got it. So basically like a year before I was like, nailed it, got it. And so I finally completed it. That one was pretty challenging for me though, and I really enjoy this. So what tips, tricks, strategies do you have for this one? What is it?
Embrace the suck. I mean, it's going to be a lot of pain for a long time. There's not really you just kind of have to grit and bear it.
What helps me, and I can post this in the show notes. We've posted in the group multiple times, and I normally post it again anytime this workout comes out, is my pace card that I actually use for this workout. I'm not going to break down all the pacing right now. Go to the show notes, or if you're in the group, I'll post it before the workout happens. You'll see the pace card. But that pace card helps me out so much because I know it has it broken down to like how much time you can spend on each thing. So after the 100 cal row, where you should be at on time, after the Airdyne, where you should be at on time, so on and so forth. Before you run the mile, after you run the mile, like it's got it all broken down, and you can just like put it on your rower and glance at it real fast to see if you're on pace or off pace. And that helps me out significantly because if you do go primarily on the Airdyne, if you decide to go balls to the wall on the Airdyne anywhere close to the beginning, it's going to F you up for the whole workout. And that's what I was doing wrong the first, 3 attempts that I failed the workout was I'd be like, okay, I could probably like really crush it in the Airdyne and like go really, and then my legs would be exhausted and I could barely run. And so that's just kind of the takeaway there. So I think following some sort of pacing, I'll have the pace card that I don't want to say some sort of pacing, following my pace card. Because there's no other way to, like, it's broken down so mathematically, there's no other way to finish it other than hopefully going balls to the wall and finishing. So follow my pace card is my best strategy for you.
Yeah, that's if you want to finish. I'd say stay below 90% at any point in time until like the 25s, because you don't want to red line too soon, and then you're just going to sit there for 5 minutes and do nothing. You want to kind of stay at a sustained, we preach sustained pace a lot, but try and stay at a sustainable pace for as long as you kind of can.
Yeah, and just, from a mindset perspective, keeping in mind that this is a very heavily front-loaded workout. It is not, it sounds obvious, but these are not even sets between the miles. It's not 100, 100, 100, 175, 50, 25. So you should get progressively faster finishing all of that work. And so the biggest thing that's going to screw with your mind is that first set of 100. It's going to you're going to finish all the hundreds, and then you're going to do a mile, and you're going to be like, that took so long. There's no way I can finish this. But you have to realize that you're stair-stepping down so much that you're going to get faster. So I think from a mindset perspective, that's the only thing I would keep in my noggin.
Yep.
All right, man. It's been a while since I asked you the question. Why should someone join Garage Gym Athlete right now? Free trial.
Because of...
Well, let me be the devil's advocate. This week is deload week, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is, as this is published, is a deload week. So we're already 4 weeks into a cycle. Like, why should I join now when we're already 4 weeks into a 12-week cycle? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Why would I join right now?
Because next week starts a brand new 4 weeks. And
it's like 4 weeks.
It's like a new day.
Yeah.
The 12 weeks are broken down into 3-4 week segments. So guess what? New segment.
And
new month.
We partially did that for this reason. We do 3 weeks hard, 1 deload, and then we switch gears. That way you can come in almost at any point in time, and it's going to correspond. This 4-week cycle is going to correspond to the next 12-week cycle. This 4-week wave is going to correspond to the next 12-week cycle. So it all fits together. You're going to be fine. Just get in, get started, get on your way, and be awesome for it.
Oh, sure.
Awesome, man. Well, it was good catching up with you. Glad to be back on the weekly podcast routine. And I think that's it. Until next week.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.